Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Man Overboard 50 Ain't Nothing But a Number, yo, with your host, Language Pearl. I recently got a comment from a viewer from my last video stating that I have a tendency to romanticize Italy, that I look at these properties with rose-colored glasses. And that's typical of someone who hasn't watched the entire video. Because usually at the end of the video, I specifically state why this specific property is the price that it is, less than $25,000. It's usually because it's in somewhere that's remote or isolated. When you look at Italy, there is a reason why these are listed so cheaply in Italy. And the three reasons that I'm going to cover is I'm going to cover age, opportunity, and isolation. So it's not the age of the property, it's actually the age of the people. Italy has one of the oldest aged populations in all of Europe. And usually when it comes to aged populations, you're also talking about overall diminished populations, meaning young families and kids and that kind of thing. And so because they have such an old population, what happens is a lot of the elderly are in small villages and small towns. And when they pass away, the children either don't want to move back to the village, can't afford to move back to the village, or have their life set up somewhere else, and so they just, for one reason or another, cannot assume that property as a place for them to live. So in essence, what happens is you have these villages, these small villages where you, for lack of a better term, you just have a lot of old people there, and when the houses become vacant, there's no one to occupy the properties. So instead of letting the property sit or deteriorate, what they'll do is they'll try to get the most money they can get for the property, realizing that it's not in the best location, and they'll generally sell them cheap. This is also a reason why Italy began the €1 home program, because they either were in villages where there was no one taking over the properties, but in most cases they were in villages where the properties were run down and they were a blight on not only the village but the town. And so they figured they could get someone to purchase the property, to get an infusion from a new tax base, get new citizens living in the town, then it's worth, in essence, giving the property to the person. And the other thing about the €1 properties, these properties tend to be in very, very bad shape with crumbling roofs, crumbling floors. So in essence, it's cheaper for them to give the property to someone than to knock the property down. So that's kind of where this whole €1 home situation came into effect. Second thing we're going to talk about is the opportunities. The lack of opportunities in these small towns, specifically for the young. So the Italy economy is not like the U.S. economy. The infrastructure is not in place for them to have remote workers or satellite workers or nomad workers. No, in Italy, generally you have to go to the large cities in order to seek employment, in order to earn a living that you can support your family. And so that's why in these small towns and small villages, the young have left that specific area to seek some type of employment. And generally that's also why you don't find a plethora of restaurants or other businesses in these areas. It's difficult for the business to be supported by the community in question. The third thing I want to touch on about why the properties are so cheap in Italy when you look at these properties is because of the isolation. These properties tend to be remote, and they usually are in hillside towns which may or may not, and in most cases don't have some type of public transportation to larger cities. And so it's in a mountainous region. Yes, the property can be beautiful and can be a living condition, but the question you need to ask yourself is, if I buy this property, who's going to buy it from me? And so that's the reason why a lot of these properties in Italy that I present are so cheap, even though they're move-in ready. Now, it is possible that you can find cheaper properties in larger cities, but you won't find them for prices like €25,000 or €35,000, because generally speaking, the inhabitants of large cities and large towns can afford to purchase those properties. So you're not going to get the same opportunities for a cheap home or a second home in large cities as you will in these kind of isolated communities. Now, the reel also mentioned that if Italy was so great, if Italy was such a great place to live, why are so many people leaving it? He said that he's had guests at his house that have questioned why someone would move to Italy. And I'll answer that this way. There is no perfect location anywhere in the world. All locations have challenges. The Italian challenge, why people move from Italy to the U.S. or other large industrialized nations, is for opportunities at a better life, which is not uncommon around the world. It does not mean that Italy is not a place to live or a place to move. It just means that at different stages of your life, you're looking for different opportunities. Now, when you look at the U.S., you don't typically find young people leaving the U.S. to move abroad to find opportunities elsewhere. Because the one thing pretty well understood around the world and in the U.S. is that in the U.S. there are opportunities to create a life for yourself and make money. So when you start to see the time when you start to see the people leaving the U.S. for places like Italy or Europe is as they become more established financially, when they realize that the amount they have saved for their retirement may not be sufficient to afford them the same life in the United States that they had as a younger person. And so they look to move to other places where, one, the cost of living is cheaper, two, the quality of life may be different, and three, maybe it is some romanticization of a place that they've looked and dreamed about in their youth. But very seldom, if ever, you will find older people moving to a country outside of the U.S. for business opportunities. No, the U.S. is the place to make money. It's the place to accumulate your money, but it is not the place to enjoy your money once you have made it. And so in a nutshell, this is really why properties are so cheap in Italy. And no, I don't romanticize Italy, because generally, like I say, and at the conclusion of each video, I usually give a synopsis on the region that the property is in, how accessible it is to transportation, what the closest airports are, and the facilities that are located in that specific town. And it's up to you to decide, depending upon your stage of life, what works better for you. For some, yes, it would be better for them to relocate to a place outside of the U.S. where they could stretch their retirement dollar and live the life that they dreamed they could live. For others, that may not be the opportunity, it may not be a desire. But either way, regardless of what your ulterior motives are, it serves no negative purpose to look at homes, whether you decide you want to buy them, you just want to look at them, or you want to fantasize about them. So that's it. I hope that answers your questions. If you have questions about why properties are so cheap in Italy, or why I'm doing videos on properties in Italy. Okay, so say, well, have you even been to Italy? Yes, I've been to Italy several times. I've been to Torino, Milano, Roma, Firenze, Toscano. I've been to Capri, Positano. I've been to the Italian Alps, etc. I've been as far south as Naples and as far north as Milan. It's the only large town that I wish to see that I have not been to is Venezia or Venice. Why would someone move to Italy? Well, to be honest, there has been a tremendous amount of romanticization around the country of Italy. It's the language, it's the people, it's the food, it's the culture, it's the slower pace of life, it's the friendliness of the people. There are many reasons why you might move to Italy, but surely one of the main reasons that you would not move there as a young person if you're looking for opportunities to build a successful career. Thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you on the next episode. Ciao for now.